First, I would like to extend a thank you to all of the friends and family of the graduating students. Without your love and support, we would not be here today. Also to Jason and Gail, our fearless leaders, as well as the rest of the faculty and staff at the College of Architecture and Design. Each of you have been an inspiration to every one of us along the way. If you had told me 5 years ago that I would be standing here today, I would have called you crazy. In 2015, I arrived at the University of Tennessee to get my Master of Architecture. I was eager and ready to push myself through graduate school in order to get out there and become a practicing architect. The first 3 years of my graduate school experience went in a flash. It seemed like only yesterday that my cohort were meeting one another for the first time. We'd become more than friends. They were my second family. In 2018, we all walked across the stage and we went along our own paths. While I began my journey here at UT with no other goal than becoming an architect, I was not ready to leave. After a 3-week break, I began my first summer course in the Master of Landscape Architecture program. I was very nervous, not only about starting this journey, but being placed into an already established landscape cohort. I'd only met one landscape kid at that point, and they had already been together for a year and developed their friendships. In the fall of 2018, we began our first studio together, the infamous River Studio. They wasted no time in introducing themselves, and I could tell them how lucky I was to have been placed in this group. Throughout that semester, they quickly became my second family. Whether it was our hours of radio communication between Gale Force One and the Bradford, or searching for that always elusive breakfast during the river tour, I knew my time in the landscape architecture program was going to be special. Throughout these last 2 years, I have so many experiences with this group of people that I will never forget. Maybe it was the hours and sleepless nights spent in studio or reading theory assignments out loud at 2 a.m., or maybe it was just culture. Whatever it was, these landscape kids have changed my life. Looking back now, I cannot believe that I was ever scared to join a new group. As this experience comes to an end, and what an eventful end it has been, I cannot help but to look back on these last 5 years and be grateful for everything that the University of Tennessee College of Architecture and Design has given me. They have given me not only my education, but the chance to interact and become best friends with the people that sit in front of me today. Today marks the end of this chapter as classmates, but it is not a sad day. It is an amazing day because each of us are about to start a new chapter. And although we might not see you in studio the next day to talk about it, we will only be a Zoom call away. Thank you.
Hello, fellow graduates, families, friends, and faculty. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate this milestone many years in the making. Without your support and guidance, this day would not have come. I'm honored to speak today to represent myself and my fellow architecture students. As I thought of what to speak about, I remembered a moment from a TV show that has characterized my education, The Office. In the episode, the infamous Michael Scott writes on the whiteboard, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." He credits Wayne Gretzky for the original quote and for realizing how perfectly the quote applies to the situation, ultimately credits himself. While ridiculous and comical, the scene brings to mind our own journey, both with the chosen quote and Michael's actions. We began as Michael Scott did, finding ways of understanding the world and our role in it through the words of others. We've spent several years studying the work of those who established themselves as designers, finding words of wisdom and keeping them close to our hearts as we develop our methods of design and action. The work that resonated with us became part of a curated collection, an amalgamation of design we sought to emulate. But we did not stop at emulation. We used this collection to develop our own methods, our own goals, our own opinions on the role of architecture in the world. Though we may stand on the shoulders of giants, our words are now our own, our claims as calm, defiant, or as outlandish as we deem necessary. Now that we have completed this chapter of our lives, we begin on a new path of progress. Our experiences will accrue as wisdom, and our work will shape the world in ways large and small. Most importantly, we now have the chance to become Wayne Gretzky's, to become experts and visionaries whose words are written on whiteboards and whose work inspires those who come after us. This opportunity to inspire those around us is a daunting one. The potential obstacles are as great as the change we may seek in the world. But we should not allow fear to stop our journey. What we gained in the past years of education through our own hard work and the investment of countless others has constructed a foundation for our futures, one fully capable of supporting our potential. What we build on top of that foundation is only limited by what we believe ourselves capable of. Therefore, let us embrace the opportunities presented to us and use the skills gained to invest in the world. Let us practice architecture in ways that demonstrate what we have learned here at the University of Tennessee: commitment to design of the highest caliber. I cannot wait to hear about the wonderful things you build in the world, my friends, and I cannot wait to hear someone quote you.
To begin, thank you so much to the students, faculty, and Dean Poole for the opportunity to speak on behalf of my classmates and for coordinating this virtual commencement in very adaptable times. It sounds cliche, but it really is such an honor to be representing the Interior Architecture School and the class of 2020. The task of the commencement speaker is to send the class into the world with words of wisdom before so-called real life begins. And with that being said, I know there are 34 IARC grads sitting on their couches right now, dying laughing at the thought of me bringing deep-seated wisdom into their life. So I'm going to take a different approach. In writing this speech, it almost forced me in an uncertain time to look back on the larger picture of what this degree and experience means, and I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity. The unconventional aspects of the past few weeks have taken away not only our ability to connect as students and teachers, but also the feedback and inspiration we find in each other that we've taken for granted the past 3.5 years. As a class, we were each other's greatest supporters and each other's greatest critics, and in my experience, I've never trusted a group of people more. In a time like today, we've come to realize as students, professors, and humans on Earth that normal as we know it does not exist. There is no such thing as a permanent existence, and as design students at the University of Tennessee, we've been given the gift of learning how to design for the unknown. I read a statistic that 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 have not yet been created. And while at first this startled me, I thought back to the 8 studios that we've endured and just how multidimensional a degree in interior architecture is, that as of today, we all hold. We haven't spent the last 4 years memorizing and testing, but we've spent time gaining skills and perspective. We've studied the world as we and others know it and put empathy into our work, asking the questions how, who, and why. And if that wasn't enough, we've been critiqued on our labors and learned the art of how to not publicly cry and how to learn, listen, and even thrive off being wrong sometimes. At Tennessee, we haven't been taught to be complicit, but to work rigorously to, for lack of a better phrase, figure it out and make it better. Each of us have experienced that frustrating confrontation of the, oh, you're in interiors, that's so fun moment. But each of our professors have both prepared us and given us the tools to understand that interior design is so much greater than a knack for color, but rather is an understanding of the larger scope of the human experience. And to be clear for those at home, the definition of interior design as clarified by the NCIDQ test writers is as follows: a distinct profession with specialized knowledge applied to the planning and design of interior environments that promote health, safety, and welfare while supporting and enhancing the human experience. And I do definitely want to get that printed on a t-shirt for us. I think it would do really well in this crowd. And that would have been really funny in person. It almost feels unnatural to look forward when it seems like we haven't yet finished with each other. But I know each of us in this graduating class is both prepared and ready to take on what's next. We've stayed alert and alive and made it through a challenging, exhausting, and rewarding 4 years. We've created work that we are proud of in the studio while also being able to go dance and buy each other drinks on a Friday night at Cool Beans. And those are the relationships I don't think any one of us will take for granted as we move forward. Life is short and you guys get it. We need each other. So here's to us, class of 2020.
Each August, a procession happens in the rolling, perforated seats of 103A. And like today's ceremony, we waited for Jason to announce our names, determining our first studio. Now, I was probably half asleep at our first 9 a.m. college class, but I remember sitting next to Courtney and Katie, two friends I had already made during Welcome Week. Now, shortly after one's name is called, this procession starts when students follow their professor in a somewhat single-file saunter up the A&A's staircase, the first of many ascents to the fourth floor. And there, I found myself relieved when Professor Rose's first assignment seemed simple. Share the name of your favorite architect. Yet with 13 students, which included Tori, Andrew, Michael, Courtney, and Pender here today, we could only think of that Chicago guy, Lloyd Frank Wright or something. But that didn't seem right. And so we realized we didn't really know what architects truly did in order to determine who did it best. So naturally, we started from the beginning. Our first year textbooks included Harold and the Purple Crayon and the line weight Bible of Professor Marlene Davis, as we learned that drawing straight lines is harder than you think. The menu at Gus's Good Times Deli became a required supplement for early 3 a.m.s in the fort. A somewhat different procession of the same students grabbing a bite before returning to dorms. We learned through discovery. We discovered Old City in first tech classes, and in later years, we returned to the district to discover late nights at Urban, fashion shows at the Emporium, local architecture at Balter, or trivia at DGB. Although architects may strive to shape cities, we learned that Knoxville did a pretty good job in shaping us. We conducted research through our first research books on voxelized space, Icelandic design, historic colleges, and cults of the body. And we learned that the woodshop really can flood when a fire happens in the laser bed. And our fourth year was a blur, maybe in the rush of integrations workloads that definitely kept Elon, Logan, and I busy, or in the rush of a subsequent semester abroad. But it produced award-winning work like John and Jonathan's wall sections, or Professor T.K. Davis's Nashville studio, with crazy renderings by Michael, Tyler, and Teague. Fifth year, I've learned that designers can be good spellers, perhaps especially Kevin, from Bananagrams before Studio, to now our online Words with Friends competitions with Felicia. But most of all, we learned that we are leaders. You likely know Leah, and especially received a GroupMe reminder, as she confidently and positively leads TAST and APX. And you've likely received help from Mike, John, Taylor, or Sydney working tirelessly in the woodshop, John and Sydney providing killer leadership in Freedom by Design. And let's not forget Brandon, Aiden, and Ed, who have become honorable stewards of studio culture in hosting of events such as Color Wars. Which brings me to now. Design school surrounded me with the kind of designers who would dedicate their dogs as studio mascots like Lauren and Daniela did, or who would partake in yet another coffee run to Starbucks, Golden Roast, Krispy Kreme, whichever one we hadn't already been to earlier that day. Shout out to Allie for always helping me decide. They became travel companions as Rachel, Ritesh, Kobe, and Alex made Helsinki feel a bit more like home, and they became fellow botanists as Debbie, Destiny, and Sarah located invasive plant species. And as we gather here today, although virtual, they've become the kind of designers and people I've missed the most. This year has reminded me of the strength we've gained, not only in design skills, but in fostering community and support of one another. Now, if there is anything you gain from hearing me speak, I hope it is this. Remember to stay in touch and continue inspiring each other to become better designers and even better people. So to answer Professor Rose's question of who my favorite architect, or at least for now designer, is, You will hear their names called in a short moment, just as we processed up the steps of A&A to prompt this first question. Now we process for the conclusion of such an incredible journey. Thank you to parents, family, friends, faculty of the College of Architecture and Design, and ultimately you graduates for making this possible.